Well, just when you think it can't get worse for the UK economy, it does. So today we're hit with some bad news that the UK economy has unexpectedly contracted by 0.1% in May. What turned out to be a bit of a positive day. We're all waking up, we got this heat wave, it's a Friday, everyone's got a good feeling, and then we get hit with this news. The UK economy once again showing some weak data. And who would have thought? Who would have thought that if the current government go in with an attitude of we're going to tax everything that breathes, we would end in a situation where the economy starts struggling? Not good, is it? Now, the thing that first of all frustrated me today is that I saw Financial Times, I saw Sky News, I saw BBC News. They all went with the headline of unexpectedly. And I went, really? Really? Is that the headline we're going with? I thought, isn't this obvious? I think, I've been quite critical in the last few months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, of what the current government have been doing. And normally I don't come this outspoken, but when I see a car crash happening, I've got to speak about it. And I saw this car crash coming 6 months ago. I'm not, full-time job is not a financial analyst or some form of economic forecaster. But even me, that has a full-time job totally out of this industry, that just sits in his spare room in his house and tells you guys his thoughts on current situations with stocks, companies, economies. If I can spot what they're doing is going to end up in a car crash and these guys can't, what are we doing? Because these guys get paid a lot of money to do this. A lot of people get paid to make these decisions. A lot of people get paid to analyze these decisions. If I can see this is ending into a car crash before it happens and then people are surprised that we've ended up in the car crash, like, what's going on here? Like, this was obvious. This was obvious that this was going to happen. If you just go out and your attitude is just tax everything that's breathe, who would think growth would slow down? And that's the situation that we've ended up in. And we saw that in April. April's data was absolutely terrible. March was a little bit more positive. But the only reason why March data were positive is because in April we had the tax hikes. So everybody went out there and spent before the tax hikes happened. If it wasn't for people spending like crazy before the tax hikes in March, right now we would be in a recession in the UK. So the only way that we've avoided an official recession is because of people spending money before the tax hikes. You take that out, we are pretty much sitting into a recession in the UK right now. And that's quite impressive because from where we were a year ago before this current government came in, we're the fastest growing country. We were the fastest growing country in the G7. And now we're the slowest growing country in the G7. And there's only been one change that's happened that dramatically in a year's time. And to get into that position in a year time, from a year's time, is pretty impressive how you do that much of an awful job. Now, we know where it went wrong. It was the autumn budget. I was quite surprised at the time there wasn't more people, more mainstream media outlets calling it what it was. It was an awful budget. I've never seen a budget that lazy. It was a budget of, we need more money. We're going to spend a load of money. We're not going to stimulate growth, which is what you should do. Stimulate growth, and then with the growth, you have people going out and spending more money. Everyone's better off. Everyone's feeling more positive. People spending more. You're getting more in tax. People getting pay increases. Everyone's better in a growing economy. But they didn't go with that attitude. The attitude was, we just tax everyone. And our attitude is we're going to throw tax on individuals. Me and you have to pay more tax. And then also private companies. We're just going to throw all these taxes on these private companies and, hey, you know what? You just go sort it out. It's your problem, not our problem. And that sort of attitude is a lazy attitude, and that's going to come back and bite you. And what we have seen now is we've seen that lazy attitude coming out and biting them back. And if only this has happened before. Well, actually, if we do go to what happened in the Labour government in 1970, if any of you guys have ever read about it, or even if you lived through that time frame, you realise the last time Labour had an attitude of, hey, we tax everything, let's see what happens. It ended very badly. But there we go, 50 years on, we have a repeat, and the same thing is happening once again. Now, first of all, there's loads of things that have happened in this time frame that are just horrible decisions. I mean, one thing that the attitude of is that they're going to tax the rich, and then all the rich have kind of started to move out of the UK. That's obviously a problem. Now, I know one of the things is to go, oh, tax the rich, they've got so much money. And these elements of like, is there certain people out here that should be contributing more? But the problem is you've got to be really careful, because some of these people that are the highest contributors, it's very easy for them to move to other countries. And if that happens, you lose what they contribute into the tax system altogether. So you've got to be really careful about how this sort of taxing goes. The other thing is the people that are supposed to benefit from this. So normally under a government like this with the tax increases, it's normally supposed to get distributed in certain sectors. But then we've seen like the education system. The education system is the worst I've seen it. If you don't know, I work in the education system. Is the worst I've seen it since I've been in there, which is like the last 12, 13 years. The things are like, one of the ways they're going to tax is doing the private schools. But the problem with the private schools is that then you have more influx into the school systems that are already struggling to cope. And then you have all these private schools shutting down. You also have more legislation on what academies are doing as well. Makes it more difficult. And none of this is flowing into the school system. And for me as well, like I said, I've been in the school system, working in the education system now for the last 12, 13 years. This upcoming year, I have never seen as many cuts in the education system as I have seen in the last 12, 13 years, which you put into context, like how much the previous governments that we had cut the education system, and right now it's even we're in a worse place than the last 12, 13 years. Shows you like there's we aren't even getting any benefits from it. And for example, like the welfare system, I can never remember a time where Labour went after the welfare system. Some of the people that are the most vulnerable in society, and we have a current government that goes, you know what, we just need to get tax from everywhere to just cut this spending in this black hole. We're going to reform the welfare system, and we're going to cut loads of benefits for people that need it the most. I would never ever expect a Labour government to do that, and that's what they're going to do. And obviously, we've seen the knock-on effect of that. We've seen a chancellor crying in PM's questions because of the pressure of where's all this funding going to come from, and the backbenchers having arguments. And I mean, it's just a long list of U-turns, isn't it? Inflation's going sky high again in the last year. That's not good. That's what we have from the lazy attitude of, hey, you know what? We need tax. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tax everything and hope it works out. And eventually companies go, we can't just absorb it. We're going to have to pass it on. And now prices are going up. And once again, then we're in a place where me and you, the individuals, are once again getting affected by this. It's just shocking. And the other people that benefit from this is the boat people. The boat people come across, and more and more record highs come across, and they're the only ones that benefit and more and more sitting in four-star hotels. And the thing is that the whole situation isn't going to get better. And that's like, today I've only selected like a minor few things. Like I haven't even gone on to the likes of the pensioners, winter fuel U-turns that have happened left, right, and centre, and loads of other things. But the thing is you'd hope at this point you hope it gets better. But the problem it isn't going to get better. The problem is that because there's all these taxes that have come in, and companies aren't spending, people are getting nervous about spending money. Some of this, where they're going to get this extra money from for the spending, is naturally from growth. Now the problem is that we haven't got growth anymore. We've got contraction. So if you're planning on spending all this money that they're currently wanting to spend, the problem is that if you're not got growth, then you have to go back in for more taxes. So what we've seen is a awful budget in last October. The problem is that it's probably even going to get worse, because when we get around to the autumn budget again this year, the money's not coming in because the economy's not growing, because they've gone in with the attitude of we're just going to tax everything. And who would have thought that won't work? Now people aren't spending. This is why you always go for stimulation. That's why you always go for the economy grows, you make more money, you get more money to spend on taxes. You don't go in with the attitude of just throwing taxes on everyone. And now because, the economy isn't growing, the money available has gone. So the problem is now that they're going to have to come in for more taxes in the autumn budget. Now, once again, when you look at the autumn budget, who are the people that are going to get affected again? It's probably going to be businesses. Once again, after another big tax raid only last year, it's going to be the likes of me and you. So our tax thresholds are more than likely going to get frozen again. This is not being ruled out and is expected to get extended to April 2028. So as we are earning more money, as we're getting more pay increases, we go up the thresholds. More of that is getting taxed. So even though we're getting these pay increases, we're not actually getting all of these pay increases, because a lot of it is pushing us into thresholds, and then we're getting taxed on it, whether it be 20%, 40% or whatever. So we're having to pay for it more and more. And as we seen before, capital gains, a lot of I'm an investor, probably some of you guys are investors. We get punished again. We are some of the people that are the biggest contributors to society. We go out, we take the risks. We try to stimulate growth. We try to take the investments into businesses. And once again, we're the ones that get punished because last year we saw our capital gains get hiked up. The current government have already ruled out that they're going to not touch the corporation tax, VAT, and income tax brackets. So the only other thing then the big other one that you go for is capital gains. So then we're going to have to end up paying more capital gains tax for taking on the exact same risks. So we get all our income thresholds frozen. We're going to have our capital gains tax hikes up again. What ISA allowances hacked at this time round. And all that we have is just you having to pay for what is the government's mistakes, because we have a government that has made horrible mistakes and now they're having to dig the black hole out that they've currently got themselves in. And this summed it up perfectly. This is the best. This summed it up the best. The problem is with what we have at the moment in the last year is that we've got a government in power that don't know how to run a business or an economy. They've got a load of people that don't know how businesses work. Now, you can have people that don't know how businesses work, and you can have them in, places of power. If you have a good knowledge in the education sector, you're a good person to run the education sector. If you've got a good knowledge in the health space, you're a good person to get into the health space and run the health space. But you don't get someone that has never run a business before to start running what happens for businesses. And that's what's happened. When you look at the current government, I think either all of the cabinet or all but one have never run a company in their life. So when they're making all these rules up for the companies, no wonder they're struggling, because they don't understand what some of these things that they're bringing in are going to have the impact on the businesses and the knock-on effects. And this is the problem, is that me and you are now having to pay for it because we have people that are not really qualified for the roles they're in, are in those roles. And it's just unbelievable to see what is coming up, just over an anniversary of a year of a government in power. And this is the situation that we're in. Like, the deterioration over a year has been terrible. And like I said, I'm a guy that sticks to the stock market. And I just talk about the stock market. And people say, well, why are you talking so much about, political stuff at the moment? And the reason why is because I just get frustrated. I do think the UK could be an amazing country if it was run right. I think the economy could be great if it was run right. But it just frustrates me to see so many basic mistakes made. And eventually that has the knock-on effect to me and you. I feel like in the last year, I shouldn't be in a position where I am having to contribute even more than what I was doing previously. And I look at what I'm currently getting in life, and it's less. I go out on the street and I look at what's happening on the street and I go, but what's the reward? I would have no problem if we were getting taxed more and more and we were getting the rewards for it. But I go down the street and I see someone getting robbed and the police don't turn up for 3 hours afterwards. I go to work, I see the education system the worst place it's been in the last 12, 13 years. What are the rewards we're getting here? It just doesn't make sense, does it? And the problem is that these videos don't actually have a point to them. It's just like I like to rant and rave about it. And if we make enough noise, maybe there'll be a point where they do realise. But I don't know if there is. But ultimately, I'd like to say it gets better. But I am concerned about this autumn budget coming up. And I am concerned this is only 12 months of, the people that have the power at the moment. This is the first 12 months. And we've got to stick through another 4 years yet. Which is where I start to get really worried about where we're going to be in 4 years' time. But all we can do is make noise. If we carry on making noise, maybe there'll be some sort of realisation about how wrong this is going, or even better if we get some people in power that actually start making the right decisions where we actually benefit from them. Because right now it feels like we're just having more and more taken away, and what do we have to show for it? I don't know about you, but it feels like nothing. It feels like we've got less to show for it. So we'll see what happens anyway. Sorry for the rant and rave. I won't leave. Normally this is the Friday video and I have the weekend off. I won't leave the channel on a negative note this weekend. I'll come back with a video on Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully something a little bit more positive. But yeah, Yeah, bit of a stinker of a Friday, wasn't it, for the UK economy? Thanks for watching. See you in a bit.